don't seem reverent at all.
Oh, all right.
Well, he could be in disguise. You know?
What?
Could be.
Oh, good. Oh, good. All right.
We should not expect the
Good
second
enough,
coming.
good enough reason as any to go for a walk. Just be a little break and then you continue to walk. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll give a little basic understanding, or like sort of my take on it. You can hear, like you ever hear of Advaita or non-duality?
Yes.
Yeah, so Advaita is something else. It means the word is different than non-duality in a way. Non-duality is a negation, yeah? So the negation is basically not two. So most people in pursuit of a spiritual experience or something like that start from the affirmation. They're affirming the truth, let's say, as a goal, yeah? Where this non-duality is the opposite of that. It's a negation of that which you start from. The idea of you is negated in a sense. And it's different than denying, because many of us have tried to deny what we thought we were tons of freaking times. It doesn't work, right? The more you deny it, the bigger you are it, in a sense. This is negation, it's different. Yeah, so it's not like denying would be, I'm not that, and then negation is, I'm not that. You know, it's just, it's totally, it's given its little stage time, but you're not that. It's just an observation you come to. It's not like, I'm not that. Like, if you don't want to feel like a fraud, you'll feel like one thousands of times. Yes, so denial doesn't work. So most paths, we start at the premise of us, and then we want to arrive somewhere and either be a better us, or to transcend the us, or to merge with the one as the us. Yes, somehow or another. But we tend to still be the main topic. So if you're on a path to know God, the emphasis is more on the knower of God than God. Yeah. So the knower of God gets a lot of the play. You know, God is like, but the spotlight's on you. You know, reaching the heights of God, whatever it may be. Yeah. So a lot of people have tried the aforesaid formula of starting here, and then all right, so you get introduced to Buddhism. So you hear about the Buddha, let's say, and then you hear the concepts, and like you enter the room 101 Buddhism, which is, you know, everything is temporary, therefore not satisfying, and you have a sense of it. Yes, it makes you feel, but there's a stubbornness of you being solid and not coming and going and just being here. And so then seeing yourself as this, the only way you can really hear about Buddhism is as a practice in a way, or a way of life, and it is. It can be it's a very good way of life for the action figure. It is. You know, being calm and having pauses and trying to have equanimity, and, you know, you'll be a better quote-unquote person. But the hopes is that you would, by doing this that was suggested by Buddha, who knows what he suggested really, but, you know, suggested you'll acquire some Buddha traits, you know, like equanimity, enlightenment maybe, at least satori, a little couple of shocks every once in a while, yeah, something, and you go in and you become very dedicated, and you attempt to do like daily practice and stuff like that. There's nothing right or wrong with it, but then there's even in the writings of Buddhism, let's say in Zen, and then in the writings that you'd find in India, from the earliest scriptures, non-duality is a tenet, it's a part of it. And they would talk about it of asking, who am I? You know, questioning that assumed subject, or arriving at it through a negation, which is neti, not this, yes? So you negate everything, and then you're left with what you are, yeah? You are that which is negating everything. You're not a thing, yes? Yeah. So there's, yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
When you say non-duality, isn't there an idea of connection, of where there's non-duality, so we're all connected, or what's left, that energy or the spirit that's in me is also the spirit in you, because they're not separate, there's connection?
Well, there wouldn't be a connection. A connection would mean there'd be two things connected, yes? So there's not that. But that's true, you may want to say, but the way we present it, we don't care about that. Because how it's presented here is there's certain systemic traps that keep us engaged or in the act of being identified as what we're not. And so when you come to a meeting such as this, there's a feeling it's you that's here, yeah. But that you that's stating it's here isn't you really. So the message is never to you. The message here is we throw it over hopefully your head, and we throw so many balls that one of them gets through. We're not a big practitioner of taking 10 minutes and then going into deep repose, because the selfing will just re-engage. So we want to overwhelm the system so one of the balls gets through and lands right in what you are, which is everywhere, so you don't have to aim. All you got to do is throw it over your head, and I'm assured that it's reaching the target. And so then suddenly what you are hears the message of non-duality, and then it applies the negation to what you're not. That works, yes? What you're not trying to negate shit doesn't work. Because in its negation of shit, it's affirming it, yeah? So this is the little trip I saw, and a lot of great masters have put it out. It's not like it's new. But when I was going to talk such as this, it wasn't seemingly emphasized that much. And to me, there was a download that told me, well, this is probably the most important thing to share, because if you don't hear it, you're going to be looking from what you're not. And so it's going to be what you're not hearing about what it's not. And then it will even get into a really weird pretzel. It'll try to not be what it's not as what it's not. So it leads to the point of wanting to be a non-self, but as a self. Yeah, I've seen it. So there's a couple of hooks. And so one of them is, this message it's not coming from me, and it's not directed to you. It's hopefully over our heads, yeah? And it falls under the category of, like the statement of a great Zen master, Huang Po, one of my favorite, an old Chinese Zen master. And he would explain a number of things, but one of his famous ones is, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Yeah? You can't use mind, big mind, yeah, to seek mind. You can't use light to seek light. You can try it for eons, nothing's going to happen. Now that's a beautiful statement, because it would be totally inappropriate if there was really Amelia, Keith, Joyce, Charlie, Paul here for the master or the invited to say, hey, Bill, Mary, Jill, Paul, Keith, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. That would be very confusing to Keith and Bill, right? But see, Huang Po sees Keith, aka the Buddha. So he's basically trying to talk through Keith to the Buddha and saying, hey, Buddha, you can't use yourself to find yourself. That's the whole point of non-duality. In my view, the whole point of non-duality is not to try to understand what you are, or study what you are, or experience what you are. It's to understand what you're not, to experience what you're not, which you're doing all day, and to study what you're not. And in seeing what you're not, that's what you are. Yeah? Because all the while, what you're not is in this place, you are that which you're looking for, but not as what you're not. Yeah? So basically, it's like a magical trick of the mental state. And the mental state's main movement is claiming, yes? That's all you need to know, really. The selfing's whole activity is based on claiming. So selfing is the activity of the mental processes. Let's say thought, memory, perceptual interpretation. So if the attention and interest that comprises us in this place is going up into the mental process, at any time it goes up there, you'll find the mental process is in the act of being identified as a doer, a thinker, a this and that, whatever, yeah? And that all those doers and all that ownership is attributed to the body. So now suddenly, the selfing claims that consciousness is an attribute that you have. So in other words, you believe you are seeing right now. There's a sense when they're seeing that it implies there's a seer. When there's sense, when there's thinking, it implies there's a thinker. And it's not just a thinker. The a thinker gets crowned as the thinker, and then it gets crowned as not just another you, but me. Yes, and this is, in that sense of me, you can be in such a condition of terminal uniqueness. You will actually really believe that no one thinks like you, feels like you, and does the things you've done. It can go that extreme, because I've had the experience being an addict. So it can go really, really like totally living in a separation. That's all manufactured. Yes, it's not so. But it can seem to be so. And if it seems to be so to you, it's so. Because you're reality, basically. It's the simplest thing. You are reality. What's looking right now, what you are calling that spirit or that awareness that we all are, that's reality. And reality is lending reality to things by being identified as a thing. That's what's happening. So I found the futility of going to talks, hearing great descriptions of what I am, or love, or all I am is consciousness, and all like this, because it was what I'm not listening to it. And what I'm not, by listening to a description of what it is, reinforces what it's not. It doesn't weaken. You can hear about what you are for fucking years. There'll be it will just reinforce what you're not. I'm serious, I've seen it. So the point is to rotate something. And this is how I would put it. Instead of looking for what you are, from what you're not, you see what you're not, looking for what it is, from what it's not. You see it because you're prior to it. And so when you see what you called you, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the owner of everything, if you see it from afar, from what we are, there's no like studying of, oh, that's not me, 800 fucking pages. There's just a hit, I'm not that, because I'm seeing it. There's a seeing, and it's not like it's coming from Idaho. It's right where I seem to be, and I'm seeing the mental process do its thing, which is, that's why I call it selfing, the activities, because people believe there's a self. The assumption of a self comes from believing in the selfing. So the verb of the mental states imply a noun, and then we immediately take ourselves to be the noun, and then we're thinking we're doing the verbing. I've been selfing all day. It's totally insane. And if you see it, it's just a magic trick in time. So that which comes after what we are, after, implies it's before what we are. So now, just nonchalantly, when there's conscious contact occurring all day, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, there's just a big, broad assumption it's me doing it. I'm conscious, I'm seeing. And so whatever I see, tons of different things I see, they're all attributed to one seer. You don't see the bondage of self. It's an activity. You could, hold on one second, bro. You could, let's say we were going to have a 3-day retreat with people who know me would never even come, thank God, because they've listened to well enough. 3-day retreat, and we're going to use the 3-day retreat to chant, we're not a body. So we all get together. I'm not a body, I'm not a body, I'm not, even the Course Miracles said, I'm not a body, I am just as God created me, whatever. You could say it, and I did it. So that's why I use it as an example. I did it. And all it does is the only thing that wants to get out of the body experience is the body identification. So the more you chant, I'm not a body, the more it's reinforcing the body. You just don't see it. That you're wanting to get out causes that the in you believe you're in to be real. That's the whole point. See? So the Hawaiian Post said it beautifully. maybe he's saying you can't use the Buddha with the hopes that it would catch you doing exactly that. Sitting there listening to Huang Po, he's telling you, not like, oh, let's study this statement. No, he wants to catch you, you know, hey, that's what I'm doing. That's the hope. So when he goes, hey, you can't use the Buddha, say, ooh, that shoe fits. You caught me. I'm guilty. That's beautiful. Yeah, because you're not that. Yes. Because if that tries to stop using the Buddha, it would yes? So all these statements are just like spiritual shoes. You try them on, and if they stop you in your tracks, you're onto something. That's what happened with me. I heard it years and years and years ago, and it's been the last answer. I never fucking was moved to look for anything else. It explained the whole game. Yeah, there was no need to, all right, shake, let's see if I can get another move, get the boardwalk, whatever. It was obvious. And the mind, not the mental processes, the mind's just been entertaining that idea. And it hasn't come up with any new one. And it doesn't need an extreme one or a radical charged one. It's just ordinary dog shit awareness. I'm awake to being awake. It's not a fucking big deal. You're awake. The whole point is, most of us, with the pursuit of trying to wake up, we're reinforcing the belief we're asleep. That's the insanity of it. The insanity of the goal we're hoping to arrive at is being used to reinforce the imaginary problem. We don't, and see, it's like this thing in recovery. We have a statement that captures what I'm trying to say. It says, you gotta quit playing God, yeah? And it says, why? It doesn't work. You know, look at your fucking life. All right, so then, okay, so let's say I'm just humbly putting this out. I believe the head, that narration, is playing God all day. It tells you what the day's gonna be like before you get up. Yeah, doesn't it? It tells you how, oh, this life's gonna suck. I mean, it's 80 years of, you know, forecast in like a 5 second, oh, the whole life sucks, you know, whatever, you know, on and on and on. It's playing God, yes? Simply. So that which comes here, with unbeknownst to us, that's saying it's you, is playing God, really. Okay, so the message is, hey, to that, unfortunately, the message may be claimed by that which is playing God, so then what happens? That which is playing God says, oh, I gotta quit playing God. That's playing God. And there's no point where you get out of it. If that which is playing God tries to quit playing God, that's playing God ad infinitum. There's no point where it works. The only way it works is it finally reveals that it's a failed system. Well, maybe suddenly you can just pull this, your attention interest leaves that system, and now other possibilities become available. Hey, maybe I am what I'm looking for. Who knows? You read St. Francis, what's looking is what you're looking for. What? Yeah. It doesn't say what's looking is what you, and after 50 pages of requirements, become that which you're looking for. No, it says what's looking is what you're looking for right now. Doesn't matter how great or bad you're going. That which is looking, which is not of the body, is what you're looking for. But we're looking for it as a body. Yeah? So the body says, I'm a body, so I have to look for that which I'm not. But you are that. Why not just negate the idea of being the body, and then you find out what you are, and you realize the futility of trying to look for it all these years. And it would be freaking, the horse would be in front of the cart, and you wouldn't spend another second looking for what can't be found, and you would be inherently awake to being awake. It's just that simple. I mean, look at consciousness. Is it demonstrating any thought or effort to be conscious right now? You're just seeing easily. Your eyes may go bad, but the consciousness doesn't. Does it really? I got an old pair of consciousness. You know, it's like it's weakening. No, there's no effort or thought. It's the basis of our whole life, and so we're looking from ourselves all fucking day, and it seems to escape our attention because the attention is being used to tend to the act of being identified as a self. So by seeing what you're not, you'll find out what you are. By looking for what you are, you'll just reinforce what you're not. That's all that happens. You believe that you're getting out of that, but in fact you're reinforcing it. That's the shoe. If it doesn't fit, then do whatever you're going to do. And hopefully that will fail you, so you'll be left with your own devices, and you'll realize they're not your devices. And then you'll really see the commonality of all us, and you'll see, not as that special one, but as what you're not. And in seeing what you're not, seriously, you'll get a hit of what you are, which is the seeing of what you're not. So that to me is negation. And that to me is, I've tried, you know, a lot of people spend a lot of years trying the affirmative way, and they're here, yes? So, you know, I had an experience a long time ago. I was reading this very nice magazine, Buddhist magazine, Tricycle. I don't know if they still have it. Very nice, very good articles. And they had an op-ed by a famous Western meditation teacher, this one magazine. So I was reading it, and he was saying he was having this very strange phenomenon with all his longtime students. They were all getting in touch with him and say, nothing's fucking happened. So I said, boom, I just pulled the emergency brake on the bus and I got out. No more subscription to Tricycle and shit. Hey, do I want to spend 25 years and arrive there? I'm going to listen to them and just get off the bus. See what happens. So I don't know. No, I do know in a sense. I know what I'm not. And I have faith that I know what you're not, because I've seen it for years. And I know that you already know. Not you don't know. Know's the booby prize. You're being what you are, even though the thought system will never come to that. It won't. The thought system, that which you're not, would love to become what it is, but it doesn't want to be what it is. It would love to become it. If it would take hundreds of years, and yet you would have it all filmed, and it would be a great moment when you get the transcendent moment, and ex-girlfriends and girlfriends are all there to watch you transcend. Your head's in it, big time. But this isn't that attractive to the head. It isn't, because it gets nothing, really. It gets absolutely nothing. There's no, like, black belts in non-duality. There's no, like, we don't get a newsletter. What's new for non-duality this year? Nothing. It's the same. It's the same invitation. You're not that, basically. So, yeah. So I think really what we have here is we have talks about duality, really, and dualism. Dualism is the subject-objectness of our event today. Because you can see, sometimes you think you're the thinker, that would be the subject. Sometimes you're the thought about, then you're the object. So all day, the head fluctuates from subject-object, subject-object, subject-object. And basically what non-duality says, not two. There's not subject-object. So it doesn't say, you know, and if you're bad if you don't get this, it's just a simple invitation. It really doesn't have, if you've ever read a lot of stuff about non-duality, they're usually short. They're not huge eaters, so to speak. They're very short usually, because they're just pounding the same point, yeah? And they realize you are that doesn't work. It's you are not that works. That's my humble take, yeah. And I could be wrong, but I don't care either, because I've lost interest in it. So yeah, so I see the claiming. You can recognize it. You don't need a lot of it. Just see thoughts, yes? Thoughts. Okay, here's a bottle. See the bottle. And see that. So here's a bottle. All right, it's just a bottle. Everyone go, oh, that's a water bottle, maybe. All right, now I'm going to give it a different meaning. So now I call it my water bottle. So now the water bottle is being used to point to the owner of it, yes? So here's thoughts, 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 my thoughts. So all those thoughts that are claimed imply one thing, a thinker. And now that thinker is tattooed to the idea of being the body. So when you feel you're the thinker, it's attributed to the body. Yeah, same thing with feelings, same thing with actions. Actions are probably the biggest glue, because we're so identified as the body, we have to see any action we ever do. This is a dilemma in recovery, yeah, big time. Because in recovery, we have the first step, which is to admit you're powerless over alcohol and drugs. Yeah. All right, so if you're powerless, it's sort of like, it's like dancing with a gorilla. You're going to stop when the gorilla wants to stop, yes? You're powerless. All right, so here you are. Bro, you want to get a chair? So here you are, you're powerless over alcohol and drugs, okay? Yet, so you have to do anything under the influence, yet, after you do it and you come out of a blackout or something, the head will claim to be the doer of all that behavior and will actually fucking harvest a lot of guilt and shame from it, yes? To reinforce the idea of being like a very bad Paul, yes? So, that sense of being the doer is such a strong, stubborn thing that even when it's so obvious you couldn't help yourself and you were apt to do almost anything unless someone could physically stop you, it's still claiming that shit to produce a sense of guilt and shame. Which, what does that do? It frames you constantly as the doer. Yeah, this is the whole mental process. That's its intent for some reason. It wants to constantly take your interest and attention and put it on the act of being identified as a self. And then starting from there, and then that's where separation seems real. I cannot be loved, or I cannot love seems real. And all this goes on, but it can only go on in the theater of time. Without time, this stuff would be seen so obviously to be total malarkey, yeah? But see, the selfing is a master of time. It's incredible, because the selfing, this is a guy, I use it all the time. I was in LA doing talks, and a lot of times, a lot of people have heard this idea of selfing, and they sort of get it in some way. So they'll call me or they'll email me, and this guy was a perfect illustration. He says, all right, Paul, let's call the selfing Pauling, you know? So there's Pauling, and then there's Paul. And he goes, all right, on a good day, how much is Paul Pauling? Like 10%, 15%, 20%. He went on and on and on. On a bad day, is Paul Pauling like 90%? And he goes on and on and on, and the direction was totally wrong. He believed Paul was doing the verbing. The verbing implies the noun. The selfing implies a self. There's not a self-selfing. If you get this, you go a long way. The selfing implies the self. The doing is used to imply the doer. The doer would not arise without the doing being claimed. Yeah? Just like when you were a baby, you were doing quite a lot. There was no sense of being the doer. You were shitting, you didn't even know you were shitting. You know, like this, yes? This thing develops. So there's this activity, and the activity is claimed to imply the actor. And what happens, as soon as the actor is implied, it claims the activity and harvests either pride or guilt or shame out of it. You see it? And it builds itself up. It doesn't have a life, so it uses what's happening to imply it's happening to a someone, or that someone is doing it. Yes? This is called the bondage of self. It's an activity. There's no chain. There's no handcuff. There's no need. It's like an open-air prison. You stay in the cell completely. They don't need to have sentinels or everything, because you are trying to get out of you. That's never going to happen. Just like we say in recovery, self can't get out of self. That's another thing. Hopefully you hear it, so then you observe. Is that what I've been doing these last 20 years? I've been trying to get out of me as me. That's why it freaking fails. So the solution here is before the bondage. You don't try to get out of an imaginary place. You see it's imaginary. And so you're getting out of it is based on never being in it. That's the same thing with the moment. You don't learn methods of how to get into the moment. You realize completely you can't be out of any moment. So you look like, oh, Paul looks, I don't know, how does he do it? How does he get in the moment? You can't get out of the moment. Yes? This is the whole point. So the solution is prior to the problem. Yeah, the solution to bondage is see that there is no one bound. Yes? There's just bondage, and then there's an implying that you're bound, and then when it's you that's bound, you have a real bad opinion of being in bondage. Oh, I gotta get out of this bondage. Yeah, you don't give a shit about other people in fucking bondage, but you! How could they fucking do this to me? It's all selfing. It's just like mental, it's like mental fucking confetti every day, and there's a parade of one, you, and everything, you're followed constantly. Yeah, it's obsession with it. There's an obsession with what you're not to reinforce the identification as what you're not. How could a system sustain its fucking insane idea that you're a thing other than being obsessed with it all freaking day? Yeah, people say, oh, the root of the problem is obsession. It's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is identification as, and then the obsession is used to reinforce it. It has to obsess over it or it won't hold. Yeah, it's like every moment it looks like it's bound. Yeah, but if you can see it, it is never, it just has, it looks like it's bound. It's never bound. Yeah, but if you see it in time, oh, yeah, your memory is, I've been bound. And so, yes, you see it. But if you see it now, there's big, big space. So you take, all right, so there's these threads, and you open them up, and what you see is nothing, a huge, spacious nothing. And you and I are the obscuring agent ourselves. We are obscuring this fact. Yeah. How could an illusion fool reality unless reality wanted it to? There's no freaking way. So this was corrected, yeah? The horse was found itself before the cart and never needed another correction, basically, for that. And then the correction, when it's made, tells you there was no need for it because that which you thought was happening never happened. Yeah? You have never been lost. You've never been disconnected. You've never been this or that. You've always been right here. On your worst day you were seeing, on your best day you were seeing. So, yeah. And this is just an invitation, you know. You had a nice walk, you'll hear this idea, nay, you may run out of here.
I'd like to know more about St. Francis, actually. You mentioned St. Francis.
St. Francis.
What is this, Francis? You said there's a prayer or something?
No, there was a statement from him called, what's looking is what you're looking for.
Oh.
So he's basically was attempting to save us a lot of time. Because we're all busy looking for, and he just said, stop, my lovely brother. What's looking is what you're looking for. I don't know how he would have said it, but you know, you get them. You see the quickness of it? The quickness of it, the real like lightning bolt statements in what we call spirituality, all have they all have the same ingredient of timelessness. They strike as if there was no time passed. So you go, what's looking is what you're looking for, has nothing to do with time. The looking for has a lot to do with time, but the what's looking has nothing to do with time. That's the beauty of it. You're using time, and you're using that which is timeless to look for itself through time. I mean, how much, you know, it's like looking at a car with 4 flat tires where you need to read a scripture. This car cannot go anywhere. You would know. It's fucking dead. Looking is of time, and so what is not of time, but what's looking, so this is how the seeing is taken to be looking. Seeing, right, in time is looking, yeah? And so in time we're trying to use the timeless seeing to look for the seeing. Yeah? But the looking is seeing. but just cast in time. That's all it is. So if you recognize the solution when it hits you always has a timeless quality. It tells you it's always been this way. Yeah, there's no undoing of time or undoing of shit because nothing did anything. It's always been this way. Yes, that's what dawns on you when you have one of those timeless little pauses. It just informs you it's always been this way. All the things I built or all the mileages I racked up on my little spiritual car doesn't mean damn thing. I've never left where I am, nor will I ever leave where I am. It's very cool, man, because what happens? The benefits here are for this. This travels lighter. It travels lighter through whatever life has in store for it. Now, it's not like everything's going to be great. It may not be. But you'll travel lighter through it. And after years of having that experience, I have to tell you, man, what more do you want, really, as an action figure? This isn't a chariot of the gods. This isn't going anywhere. This is not ascending and going to be Paul on a heavenly golf course. It's not happening. Yeah, this is just this is a dreaming, and the dreaming is going to run out of steam. And when the dreaming forgets this dreamt, it'll be like it never happened, right? Because it hasn't. It'll be like going to sleep but never coming to in the morning. So, and I just see, if this was me, I'd have to work on it constantly. Now I see it as a Toyota. I work on it when it's necessary, to maintain it, but I'm not polishing it 24 hours a day, just trying to get an extra mile out of it, I just want to, if my blood pressure's bad, maybe I'll meditate for 15 minutes, not 13 fucking hours. For 3 weeks in Thailand. I did that. You believe something else is happening there. You're not maintaining the body-brain. You're trying to transcend with it. You're thinking it's a rocket that's going to take you somewhere. It doesn't. It falls off. So, and the better thing is now, you just chilled out, yeah? There isn't a past Wednesday or a future Wednesday. This is it. You're here now because there's nowhere else you can possibly be. You've come to a sober assessment of what's happening and what's not happening, yeah? And it verifies itself through what? Observation. Like Jesus says, you'll know the tree by its fruits. So you watch, you observe what's happening, and it leads to a hey. Because you cannot see yourself as cause. If you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, what you see and hear is not your cause. You're not causing anything. Yeah? This is an effect. The most this can be is an effect. Yes? And it can observe. It can observe effects. And in that observing, it intimates something else. That's its highest level of it can reach, is to intimate that which it is. Intimate it. Have a sense of it. By having, it's sort of like the hose dreams of the water that's been moving through it. Yes? It intimates the water by the constant sense of it coming through. The hose is very clear, it's not the water. Yeah. So, any questions? You have any more?
Can I just ask that, when you're at this place, what's the next, how do you bring this to the community? You're here speaking to us, but then what's the, is there a service or a service to the community at large, or is there something that, actions that come to mind that...
Oh, they come through mind, but not to mind. Yeah, of course. But you don't have any plan, really. You just, see, the thing is, if you're present, which you are, and that means you're available, which you are, then you're of service, basically. Yeah. Now, there's doing service, which is interesting. But being of service is more like an attitude and outlook. So basically, when the package is delivered, you're not in the back 40, you're here, yes? And so you're put to use quite a lot. I'm also in recovery for 30 years, so in recovery, it's appropriate to be helpful, so therefore I do a lot. I would do maybe be more helpful in AA, but here, helpful isn't helpful here, really. You basically just give nothing until everyone sees it as everything, yes? Because you starve the mental process. And so I don't like being helpful in non-duality, but in recovery, definitely, yeah. And non-duality, the great service is to become obsolete, really. It's just inviting. I mean, how much when you need St. Francis, unless you liked him, if you got the message, you are what you're looking for. St. Francis would be negated. I like St. Francis, but it's not an essential thing, yeah, so. This service will come to an end, and it does. We have new people, and then people who just take pity on me and know me for a while, and so they like to see me. And we have a humorous side, so it's good. Some of them are pretty dry, so yeah, we're a little raunchy. So so I think it's more of being of service. Just like someone who's in humility doesn't know they're in humility, because what you get freed from is that hovering preoccupation with you, that interest, that weatherfront of interest and attention is dispersed, and so now you're more like they say in Dzogchen, a famous Tibetan Buddhism, like the great perfection, which is a relaxed awareness, a dispersed awareness. This isn't about focus or concentration. Your job may have that in it, but this isn't that. This is more a relaxed awareness, because really in a panoramic view, there's a lot more seeing than looking at particulars. Really. So, and then there's a lot of upgrades for the system, for sure. The body has its limitations, but to me, one of the highest states it can live in is acceptance. And I saw that as an impossibility if I was this. It would always have to be worked on, like an urban renewal project. When I saw I wasn't this, there was an acceptance of this. When I took myself to be this, there was very rarely an acceptance of it. It was always seen as inferior or something, so it's very weird. So the best thing for it was kept from it by the identification as it. Yes, the best thing for it is acceptance, really. So, and you can't do yourself into acceptance. You can't, I don't think. I think it's a byproduct of something else. But I don't think you can do and thought and effort yourself into acceptance. I just don't. I really don't. I think a lot of things people try to acquire through practice can't be acquired through practice. They can be expressed maybe through practice, but they can't be acquired through it, yes? In my view. So like when some people would see a saint or a master, and they would try to follow what he did and make a path out of it with the hopes it would lead to where he or she was, but basically he didn't take or she didn't take that path. They're just expressing where they're at into that shit. So you can't you know what I mean? So I think that's a mistake a lot of the time. I'm going to do exactly what. They didn't do that to arrive somewhere. They're somewhere and they're expressing that way. Yeah.
Something really landed in the part of your message, in the way that you describe. It'll sound like this is how it's always been. And what landed was, and I can't believe this was an exciting message for me, when you said if you're lucky, you'll be there for the failure of the system, the breakdown of all of this that you're describing. And that just, for the first time, a spiritual victory is the failure, if you will call it a spiritual victory. The failure of it is, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank fucking God.
That's what the Course says, what can a failed system show you? It's failed. We've been trying to deny that, excuse it, rationalize it, because we're taking it to be us, really. It's presented itself as us, and we have a difficult time imagining getting rid of us and still being there. So we therapize it, we deny it, we hide it, have secrets about it. Fucking unbelievable how much, we're like gardening it all day. Fucking unbelievable. It's just incredible. And this is the stubbornness of it at meetings like this. People will come to tons of these meetings still hoping they're going to get it. Yeah. That's the thing they're holding out for. And they want to be there to experience their own absence. Which is impossible. So yeah. But yeah, I've been at a lot of talks over the years. I've seen a lot, and I know when the spiritual subpoena is served. So you've been served, bro. Yeah. See how it cooks. Yeah, it's just, to me, it was really like putting on shoes, and then they fit, and then waiting for the unraveling and for for information to download, because it was obvious every move I make sets up another move, and I can't stop seeming moving. So it was just, I saw the utter failedness. I saw it with recovery, and I saw it again. With recovery, I realized I was not managerial quality. I was totally fucked. That's what happened when I got struck sober. It was just a CNN newsflash. I'm fucked. And it hasn't been brought up for debate in 31 years. I didn't even know it, but this has the ability to be convinced. It was incredible. I was thoroughly convinced after all those years of fucking battering, just in a split second I was convinced that, when I manage myself, I get led to having to be managed by other people. That's what happens, so it was a sober assessment I could never come up with. And it was just, I got struck with it. And then the next day I found AA so that I could express it, or it would have dissipated maybe in 2 or 3 days. That's the thing. So you can have these peak experiences, and there's a belief that you think that's going to change everything. It may probably not. The mental state is very, very stubborn. But a way of life can sort of keep it in suspended animation, in a sense. Yeah? So by coming to satsang, I hope that it's one of its services. So you keep getting the same invitation. I know, dinner, 9, B-star, every time. But just keep receiving, and as you're receiving, the message sort of opens up like a beautiful flower in ways, and more shit gets revealed. Yeah, because it's just you in contact with you. You're the dreaming of the dreaming here. And we are all dreaming ourselves out of it right now. Yeah. And how can you tell? Tons of coincidences, someone fucking walking in here and whatever, these things happen. And remember one time we were eating at Chibo's. We come in and we try to take over the whole table like usual. There was this one guy at the table. We come in and we're surrounding him. It was like 11 of us, and one of us was facing him, and they started talking. And the guy goes, "Hey, we were at a meeting by that guy, and the guy had seen me in New York City." And I said, "You better fucking watch the videos because you gotta take the message." We just ran into him in a cafe. Yeah, how much you need the writing on the wall? Come on, just follow it. Follow the little clues. Yeah. All right, so that's it, I think. We'll pass the basket, and then